Hello, everybody, and welcome to day 19 of The Longing. Last episode, the last two episodes, we had a special guest with us on, and we do not have that guest with us anymore, even though I was hoping to have him on for a bit longer. The call quality just got so bad that it seemed like we should just end it and try again another time. So now we just have me here. The one major thing that I wanted to do today was do a reading of the new chapter of Attack on Titan and have the not do that directly in this video, but have a redirect to that on Vimeo or something along those lines so that I can maybe put a password over it, which would be good for two things. One, it'd be good for copyright reasons, but it would also be good for the reason that I don't want people stumbling upon this who, if they ever actually were watching this and they didn't watch Attack on Titan, to get spoiled, because Attack on Titan is just that good that I cannot allow such things as these to happen. But also, I just want to get on back to the main area, my room, so that I can do some more reading as well. Let's see, we are on 33 minutes and 18 seconds, so at around 23 minutes, we can end this. Maybe I'll just get right back into reading some Zarathustra when we get back home. Had a pretty weird week or so. It's been about a week in real life time since I think I've been actually making these, maybe a bit longer. Getting some work done around the house, I can't actually even remember all the different stuff, but I have a lot of ideas have been going through my head. I was thinking about, I think it's okay to give this stupid over-the-top idea here. I don't think anybody's going to steal it. And if they did, that'd be cool if they did and they made a game like this. But I was thinking about, in RuneScape, how in RuneScape there's the art style is sort of shitty, but it's also really nice at the same time. I think I said this already with Marcelo. It's got a very charming style that, honestly, a lot of people really get into they call it fashionscape, where they really create really interesting outfits that look good for the purpose of fashion. And there are different versions of certain items that are more expensive. For instance, there are these things called clue scrolls, which are these little mini adventures that you go on to get randomized rewards. And some of those rewards can be just like a basic clothing item, but with an extra like gold stripe on it or something. For instance, a blue wizard hat, but gilded with a little gold stripe on it. And those people use things like that for fashionscape in some respects. And I was just thinking about, what if you had the option in a game like that to customize the items further, like choose where you want stripes? What if you could change the way the brim of the hat was? You could make it a different size or a different height to the hat or something along those lines. You could open up all these options for fashion, and what if you locked those behind skills? Like, to be able to do that, you'd need a certain level in crafting or something along those lines. I think you could really create a more, as opposed to a PvP or player versus monster sort of game focus, you could have a skilling game focus on creativity and things of that nature. Maybe even at its best and most complicated, you could have like a spore creature or building creator sort of situation, but for items, clothing and armors and stuff like that. And I just think that could be a really interesting direction you could take a game in. I have a lot of ideas in that respect, but when it comes to making a game, not only is just making a game in general very difficult and very time-consuming, and a project that most people will quit on, probably something I would quit on in most scenarios, but when you get into things like MMOs, and really any sort of multiplayer game, but especially MMOs, you run into huge problems and you run into giant costs, and it's just not something that's particularly feasible, generally speaking, but it's a nice idea that I like to think about, and sometimes I just get a lot of enjoyment out of just pacing around and thinking about all the possibilities of like a dream game like that could be, as improbable and hard to do as it would actually be in real life. But anything's possible. Anything's possible. I would just have to start small if I were to get into something like that. Yeah. Well, it looks like we've made it all the way home. I think we have time to read a little bit of Zarathustra, or at least maybe just talk a little bit about... Let's see, I was thinking a lot in the past week or so about what we've read of Zarathustra, and how mostly the biggest thing that really stood out to me in all of Zarathustra is the idea of the last men, or whatever he said in the story. And I think on one hand I may have been a bit hard on a lot of the ideas in this book, but on the other hand I think I feel justified in a lot of my complaints. But in some ways, I think I'm really trying to struggle for the right words and how to describe this, and I might want to skip this and just start reading. Let me see if I can really get this across. It feels to me in some respect that Nietzsche, I think it's Nietzsche from hearing other people, I think Nietzsche is possibly someone who really, obviously, I guess, thinks hard about a lot of things and suffers a lot for that thinking, and maybe then looks at other people who are not thinking as hard and suffering as hard and tries to justify causing himself so much pain by saying to himself that those other people are bad or wrong in the way they choose to live their life and the things they choose to think about. Sort of a, I've done all this thinking and all of this suffering to create these ideas. Is it all right? And so he may need to come up with a justification to say, oh yes, everything I've done is right and everything other people are doing is wrong. If we go along the path that other people are going down of just being satisfied with the way things are, then that would lead to horrific consequences. And it's almost sort of a, what's the word, cognitive dissonance thing. He's got to resolve the dissonance that he's feeling by creating this thought that he's right, other people are wrong, and if we follow others, it'll be terrible. But it's more complex than that. But that is one of the basic ideas that I was thinking about, because I also, in some levels, feel that I can have a certain amount of resentment towards others when I realize how satisfied others are, and I think sometimes I also try to resolve that conflict by feeling like I am in some way superior by the way that I think deeply about things, when in reality there's no such thing as superiority or anything like that. And it's a lot harder than just the easy thing to do is to just say, oh, I'm better than other people or something, and that's how it comes off to me in this story. But all right, let's get back into it. Or maybe not, because let's try reading one chapter. Let's see, is it going to keep us... Turn off idle reading real quick. Let's see. Pale Criminal, I feel like... I don't know. Let's just check where we were. What was the last chapter before this? Okay, yeah, we're definitely on the Pale Criminal then. Let's get to reading this. Joys and passion. Oh, maybe not. Maybe we're on Joys and Passions. When thou hast virtue in this... No, we're definitely on the Pale Criminal. Which definitely reminds me of, Michael Jackson. He's a smooth criminal. Actually, I think... Yeah, no, I said I'm gonna read it. Let's read it. The Pale Criminal. 6. Ye do not mean to slay, ye judges and sacrificers, until the animal hath bowed its head? Lo, the pale criminal hath bowed his head, out of his eye speaketh the great contempt. Mine ego is something which is to be surpassed. Mine ego is to me the great contempt of man. so speaketh it out of that eye. When he judged himself, that was his supreme moment. Let not the exalted one relapse again into his low estate. There is no salvation for him who thus suffereth from himself, unless it be speedy death. Your slaying, ye judges, shall be pity, and not revenge, and in that ye slay, see to it that ye yourselves justify life. It is not enough that ye should reconcile with him whom ye slay. Let your sorrow be love to the Superman. Thus will ye justify your own survival. Enemy shall ye say, but not villain. Invalid shall ye say, but not wretch. Fool shall ye say, but not sinner. And thou, red judge, if thou wouldst say audibly all thou hast done in thought, then would every one cry, away with the nastiness and virulent reptile. But one thing is the thought, another thing is the deed, and another thing is the idea of the deed. The wheel of causality doth not roll between them. An idea made this pale man pale. Adequate was he for his deed when he did it, but the idea of it he could not endure when it was done. Evermore did he now see himself as the doer of one deed. Madness, I call this. The exception reversed itself to the rule in him. The streak of chalk bewitcheth the hen. The stroke he struck bewitched his weak reason. Madness after the deed, I call this. Hearken, ye judges. There is another madness besides, and it is before the deed. Ah, ye have not gone deep enough into his soul. Thus speaketh the red judge. Why did this criminal commit murder? He meant to rob. I tell you, however, that his soul wanted blood, not booty. He thirsted for the happiness of the knife. But his weak reason understood not this madness, and it persuaded him. What matter about blood, it said. Wishest thou not at least to make booty thereby, or take revenge? And he hearkened unto his weak reason. Like lead lay its word upon him. Thereupon he robbed when he murdered. He did not mean to be ashamed of his madness. And now, once more lieth the lead of his guilt upon him, and once more is his weak reason so benumbed, so paralyzed, and so dull. Could he only shake his head? Then would his burden roll off. But who shaketh that head? What is this man? A mass of diseases that reach out into the world through the spirit, there they want to get their prey. What is this man? Coils of wild serpents that are seldom at peace among themselves, so they go forth apart and seek prey in the world. I like that line, a coil of wild serpents that are seldom at peace among themselves. Feel that? Look at that poor body, what it suffered and craved, the poor soul interpreted to itself. It interpreted it as murderous desire and eagerness for the happiness of the knife. Him who now turneth sick, the evil overtaketh, which is now the evil. He seeketh to cause pain, which causeth him pain. But there have been other ages, and another evil and good. Once was doubt evil, and the will to self. Then the invalid became a heretic or sorcerer. A heretic or sorcerer he suffered, and sought to cause suffering. But this will not enter your ears. It hurteth your good prince people, ye tell me. But what doth it matter to me about your good people? Many things in your good people cause me disgust, and verily not their evil. I would that they had a madness by which they succumbed, like this pale criminal. Verily I would that their madness were called truth, or fidelity, or justice. But they have their virtue in order to live long, and in wretched self-complacency. I am a railing alongside the torrent. Whoever is able to grasp me may grasp me. Your crutch, however, I am not. Thus spake Zarathustra. Let's see. So, from that, I felt like I was getting more into it about midway in, and I was starting to feel it more, and not so much the first part. Maybe I just had to ease in, but as much as I could get out of that, he's trying to explain why men do insane things. What is the origin of madness in some respect? And arguing that in this specific case, that this was a man who was confused by the intense amount of differing ideas within him. Let's see, at least specifically that's what I got out of a coil of wild serpents that are seldom at peace among themselves. Uh, so they go forth apart and seek prey in the world. So because of the because of the pale guy having this lack of inner peace was, I suppose, Zarathustra's explanation of why he went out and committed such madness in the world. But he also seems to blame society, as far as I can tell, and that's about what I got out of that chapter. Hello, everybody. This is a little while after I recorded the first part of this episode, and I had went and I read the new chapter of Attack on Titan, and I was going to originally I was going to post it in a link, like I was saying earlier, but the version of the typeset of the chapter I read was extremely poor quality translation, as far as I could tell. And in addition to the poor translation, because I was reading it out loud, not everything sunk in, and that was sort of the perfect storm to make the chapter not very enjoyable for me to read. And even in addition to that, I felt like there were some occurrences in the chapter that I wasn't super happy with, just in general. So it didn't come out very well. I don't think it was. I think it was even worse than most of these episodes of The Longing, if you can believe that. So I'm not gonna post it. Sorry about that. I guess I'm leaving it here. Goodbye.